This is a vintage 1930s IXION 12 dual speed breast drill. The unit has resided at the bottom of my father's toolbox for many years. I am unsure when he actually acquired the unit. What I can say is that I never saw him use it in anger. It probably never saw the light of day once he purchased his first electric drill. The unit is missing an M8 thread support handle that will be screwed on the opposite side of the handle above the chuck. Swapping the handle from one side to the other provided both low and high speed drilling options. The unit has the remains of a manufacturer's sticker on the main body. It is also stamped with IXION 12 on the handle. There is a 3 and an S stamped on the unit collar just below the chuck. I've seen other units with a 4 and an S stamped, however I am unsure what this is supposed to signify. Let's start the dismantling. On the surface, it does not appear that this part of the job is difficult at all, and it is not. A total of 5 screws, 1 thumb wheel, the breastplate and the chuck, and the unit is effectively apart. However, we will soon find out that this is not the end of the disassembly process. The sides of the drill appear to have been made to house a liberal amount of grease, and this is, in fact, what we find. The grease is in good condition, maybe a reflection of the work this drill has not performed in its life. Time for an initial wash. I'm only interested in getting rid of the major contaminants at this time. Removing the grease and grime at this point will make the rest of the restoration cleaner and more accurate. A simple solution of warm water, degreaser and soap with some light agitation with a soft brush is all that is required right now. Three pins keep the gears meshed and the shafts in place. Using a suitable pin punch, knock the pins and shafts out to complete the disassembly process. The pins from the spur gear did not give too much resistance and were easily removed once I stopped them from rotating. The pin on the bevel gear, however, was a very tight fit. It actually destroyed my pin punch trying to get it out. Eventually, I resorted to using a short shaft rod to knock it out. I have included the whole process in this video so that you can see the effort involved. You may see some frustrations creeping into my usually calm processes, but for the sake of full transparency, I thought it better not to edit this process. What you see here is the complete process, warts and all. No editing has been made to make me look good. The bevel gear was also tightly coupled to the chuck shaft, and you may see me using a cold chisel to remove it from the shaft. An unfortunate consequence of this was that the ball bearing chase was exposed and 14 small ball bearings made an escape attempt and bounced all across the workbench and onto the floor. 13 ball bearings were recovered. It is unfortunate that one of the ball bearings was unable to be found, but in the total scheme of things, we should be okay operating with one less ball. We are now fully dismantled. Time for the next cleaning phase. In this channel, We have previously built an 18 litre or 4 gallon ultrasonic cleaner. I have included a link to the build in the video description. We're going to use the ultrasonic cleaner to remove any residual traces of contaminants, and in particular, because we will be applying a painted finish to many of the drill components, any remaining grease that may be clinging on to the component pieces. Because we will also be employing mechanical abrasive techniques, we do not want to clog the abrasive medium with any unnecessary flotsam and jetsam. The cleaning solution that we've included in the cleaner is made up of approximately 20% degreaser, 5% detergent and the remaining water. The solution has been brought up to about 80 degrees centigrade or 176 degrees Fahrenheit, and the items will remain in the ultrasonic cleaner for approximately 1 hour. Although mostly gone, either through the passage of time or through some of the cleaning methods that we've already employed, but some paint remains on some of the drill components. The simplest and most environmentally unfriendly method to remove this residual paint is to use a caustic paint stripper. 5 minutes and a quick rinse and the paint has been archived to history. Many of the drill components still had a fine coating of rust, or sported original manufacturer's casting marks, or required polishing. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you'll know that my standard go-to methods are using sanding or filing or wire wheel work. I've also brought into the picture for this build using a worn flappy disc. A worn flappy disc has a grip value of 320 or higher, so the finished metal product immediately takes on a polished appearance. Word of warning though, with flappy discs, even the worn ones, if you are heavy-handed against the disc, then it will remove material. And maybe that might be material that you don't want to have removed. This montage demonstrates the various techniques that I've employed for the drill. I am primarily interested in achieving the following results. 1. All tool casting marks, both on the outside of the tool and inside the gear housing, removed. 2. All rust removed from the gear shafts and polished to a satin finish. 3. All externally visible non-painted metal gets polished. 4. All casting marks removed from gear assemblies. 5. All surface rust removed from the drill body. And finally, all the screw heads are polished. The painting process is always the same, regardless if applying primer, the colour coat or the clear coat. Apply wax and grease remover over all the parts that need to be painted. Mask off the parts that you don't want to paint. This will ensure that the paint only goes where it's intended to. Removing overspray is a task that can be done, however it's better to avoid performing this task altogether if possible. In this case, I use a spray putty as the primer, as this allows me to apply light coatings of body filler over all the parts that I want to paint. Wet sanding the spray putty will ensure that we have a properly prepared surface that will also maximise paint adhesion. As with painting, many light coats are better than heavy applications. Make sure you adopt a light touch when wet sanding, as it will be easy to sand through to the metal base. Reapply your primer or spray putty if this happens to you. The wet and dry sandpaper that I use here is 400 grit. There is no requirement to go to a higher grit level with the primer coat, as this may impact on the ability for the colour coat to successfully adhere to the piece. Once the wet sanding has been completed and the piece dried and cleaned again, it is time for the final colour coats. In this case, I've used satin silver for the tool sides and breastplate, and automotive gloss black for the tool body and handle. The shafts have been left in their current polished state. Remember to use light coats and wait for the piece to flash off before applying subsequent coats. I did not colour sand the tool, as the finished colour coats resulted in a nice smooth finish. I did, however, apply a number of clear coats to the painted surfaces just to bring out that little bit of extra shine. Allow the painted parts to fully cure. This time will vary depending on the paint used. For automotive paints, as is the case here, the painted items can safely be handled the following day. Unwrapping the painted parts is always a great feeling. It is the first peek at what the tool will look like once it's fully assembled, and for me, it signals that the project is coming to its conclusion. Here are all our parts, cleaned, filed, sanded, polished and painted. I apologise for not having stability control switched on when I filmed this part. The assembly is a little bit easier than the disassembly, because we're not fighting with the pins securing the gears. The reassembly is also easier because we're now in the final stretch of this restoration project. You may have thought that the main shafts are identical, and you would, as I was, be wrong. The main gear shafts are not interchangeable, as the pinholes are in slightly different positions. Also, and you'll notice in the above video, besides the bevel gear, I could not recall the position of the other gears. You will see me referencing a printout of the tool layout. An important note here, take as many photos of what you're working on as possible. Although it may not happen often, and I must admit it was the first time that it's happened to me, but having an original layout photo will come in handy when you get to the reassembly part of your project. So let's recap. This is where we started, and this is where we ended. The pictures showed different angles of the finished product. There is still a missing handle that I'll need to source, although I suspect that I'll probably build my own. And there's the manufacturer's sticker that needs to be applied on the main drill body. If you know where I can get one, I'll replace my logo with something a little bit more authentic. And what restoration is complete until we see the tool perform in its primary function. Thanks for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe. Comments are always welcome.